Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship here in Katowice, Poland. My name is Quickshot and I didn't actually introduce the lovely Mitch Scumbag Crepo of Forspools. Welcome to the analyst desk. And of course, Froggen, great to be joined by you guys once again. We're going to be setting up the match this time between the KT Rolster Bullets taking on Millenium. Before we talk about KTB, I want to introduce the players to the guys at home. Let's pull up that team sheet for KT Rolster Bullets right now. There's of course going to be Leopard up in the top lane. Insec has rejoined himself. He's going to be in the jungle. We've got Ryu in the mid lane, as well as Score, as well as Muffa as your AD carry and support. Talk to me a little about KTB. They've been underperforming a little bit, didn't do so well in Masters. We haven't seen them for 2 weeks, so what's your take?
I mean, they have been swapping some players around. Insec went from top back to the jungle. They lost Kakao, which seemed to be very fundamental to their team. They swapped him over to the Arrows. I'm not so sure if that was the right call, but I feel they're still in transit and they're still figuring things out. Towards the end of the season, they want to have like the roster they want representing themselves. At the same time, yeah, Leopard is new. Insec is back in the jungle. Everybody likes seeing him. I really hope he gets Lee Sin. Should be quite a spectacle later.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get his hands on it. What's your take on KTB?
I definitely think, even though Insec has been lackluster in the recent Masters, they had 2 weeks of solid practice right now, and they can step up. If they actually used all the time to practice, which I'm sure they have been using all the time to practice, then they can step up and they can have a really good showing here.
And you have to remember, slacking or underperforming in Korea, I mean, the young Monte Cristo had a few things to say about that. If it's comparable to this level, maybe they're just good enough to stomp the Western scene right now, right?
We'll have to see, just good enough. The Western scene, the representative for this match will, of course, be Millenium. So let's grab that team sheet, pull them up on your screens right now. It is, of course, the 8th placed European LCS squad with Kevin in the top lane, RNA in the jungle, the Spanish Insec as some have called him. We'll get to that in a bit. Kerp in the mid lane with Creatine, and J-Ree as your AD carry and support. Now, Froggen, you've been playing against Millenium multiple times over the last couple of weeks. What do you think of the team coming into the World Championship here in Poland?
I definitely think they're like the weaker link in this Group A, but I also think if they just play to their style, like get some assassins on Kerp maybe, get the snowballing with Arena ganking a lot in it, maybe even have Shen and Kevin in top lane, to like ultimate him if it goes wrong with like Fizz or Zed or something, and then maybe even Cillian support coming out of Jerry just to give the early experience lead, which is really strong on assassins. But we have to remember, in LCS last Super Week, Kerp had an awesome performance on 6, and he has been having awesome performances on Gragas as well. So we might see those 2 champions coming out of him.
That is basically a composition, and if you're right, that's going to be phenomenal. What you think?
Millenium, I mean, let's face it, they're the underdog right here. So I have to think they have to bank on comfort picks and curveballs. They're known to play a few champions that are not quite in the meta in Korea. There's a lot of European top champions like Morgana support, for example, aren't really played that much over there. So I feel they should surprise the Bullets by playing stuff they're not used to playing against, and then play as many things they're comfortable on. We know that team is a very emotional team. If they get ahead, this crowd gets behind them, RNA starts shouting even louder, then they actually have a shot at throwing KTB off. If we're going purely on like statistical chance, I don't give them much higher than the 40% chance maybe. But
so let's talk a little bit more about the actual Millenium team play. I mean, you're saying we know Millenium are pretty strong early. We know they've got early advantages in many of their games, but they've really struggled to close out matches in the EU LCS right now. Especially in recent weeks, their team comps have really not had a lot of tools to close out late game. Do you think this is a concern for them against KTB, who's arguably going to have a high standard of team play?
I think it is the concern, because Korean teams are known for being awesome at mid-game rotations, and Millenium is quite the opposite. They always, I'm not worried about them in the early game. Like, they will be fine in the early game, but transition that into the mid-game, if they don't get really far ahead, I think they will struggle.
At the same time, though, they will probably can't match the Bullets in terms of like mid-game rotations and closing out games. Should they then not bank everything on the early and get so much of a lead that it becomes like insurmountable, that they can't be beaten anymore by the mid or late game, and that might be a risk. But is it a risk worth taking? I'm not sure.
It's sort of worked for IG in the previous game. Froggen, you were alluding to the fact that there was no wave clear in their comp. They got ahead early, and they were never really at threat of losing the game. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the individual players right now. I want to highlight Leopard. He's in the top lane now as the somewhat official top laner. Hasn't actually been said
for
in
now.
So many words. has played in Masters, had played a couple of games. With Insect going back to the jungle, we've seen him playing, this is Leopard now, we've seen him playing Ryze top lane, Renekton, Shyvana. So the in-meta picks plus Ryze on 4.3. Is this something that could mess with Kevin a little bit? Or do you think it's just, Kevin can do fine?
I think because of the fact they're actually purple side and mid lane champions, you can pick LeBlanc, you can pick Lulu early, there's also some other mid lane champions you can pick early. Because of that, they can leave the top lane pick to last pick, so Kevin can counter with, we know Kevin really likes Aurelia, which is a counter to Ryze, and there's Renekton as well. So if he can't counter with either of those two, he might have a really hard time if he falls back on something like Shyvana or Mundo, because Ryze will outscale him then.
As long as Leopard has a counter pick ready for every champion in Kevin's pool, then it's going to be good. If he doesn't have an answer to anything, Kevin might just say I'm going to play Renekton and just try and counter me, and then just put the pressure top, even if there's a lane counter coming out. I heard a lot of players like Ryze against Renekton, for example, but Ryze gets 2v1 really easily. If a jungler shows up and he gets shut down once, you can get him over and over and over. And at the same time, we saw a lane swap earlier today. This just might happen all again, and all predictions might be wrong again.
We'll see how it plays out. The teams are just getting ready on stage. We'll be a couple more minutes before we throw it over to Shox to introduce them. Let's talk a little bit more in depth about, let's say, the jungle matchup. I feel this is one that there's a lot of story behind it. Starting with Aranea, very emotional player. He has the ability to single-handedly win and lose games for Millenium, if we're being very frank. Last year in Moscow, Diamond Prox called him the Spanish insect for his Lee Sin play at the time. But we've not necessarily seen him have that same level of impact consistently in EU LCS. How do you think he's going to do against Insect, who's also been giving up a lot of early deaths?
Yeah, so I think both junglers has to focus on, don't overextend too hard in the enemy jungle. Just calm down, play the game, do some great ganks, maybe even get Painfin onto RNA, because flash stun, and then you have the 15, when they're below 15% health, you have the sure crit. And it's really easy to get kills that way. And I think that's what they have to focus on.
Yeah, it's definitely going to have an eye on how the synergy mid and jungle is going to work for both these teams. Kerp and RNA have been playing a long time together, so might work. I just want to see what he brings back Insect in the jungle. Is he going to be the Insect of yore, from before, or is he just going to be this Insect that was struggling a little bit but still had really solid mechanics? Even though he died a few times, that guy can pull off
he's got
the smoothest insects in the world.
So now we're actually talking about the jungle mid synergy. We have to go to the fact that both mid laners loves LeBlanc. Ryu, last Masters, or whatever it was 4 games of LeBlanc. 4 games, only LeBlanc. And we know Kerp, his go-to assassin, he even picks it blind, is LeBlanc as well. So I think that's a highly contested pick.
Well, we'll see how the picks and bans play out. We're still a couple of minutes away from introducing those teams. So for you guys at home, I want to see who you have been voting for to actually pick up a win in this particular match. You can do that by going to eslgaming.com, click on the Katowice live post, and you can take part in the poll. This is a pretty one-sided one. 89% of the public have voted for KT Rolls to Bullets. Let's be frank, no one's really surprised by that, but that also means there's no pressure on Millenium. Does that help your mindset? If the entire planet has basically discounted you in the game, can you come in here? Is it easier to maybe play?
I do think it's easier for them, just because they can play freely. They can play some compositions they don't usually play. They can take some risks. If KT Bullets lose, everybody will be like, okay, KT Bullets, it's over.
Well, at the same time, KTB has been struggling, so they don't have the full push. Nobody expects KTB to show up to be this mean killing machine that's gonna stomp at all the Western teams. At the same time, I feel there's still enough pressure on Millenium here. I mean, you're in front of thousands of people. This is IEM World Finals. You want to perform here. You want to be that guy that next year when we get here again, they'll show your clip of you backdooring or doing the Expeke or the Aranea or the Kerp. You want to be that guy, so you want to show up and play the highest game you can. So definitely pressure on both sides.
And you got to keep in mind, that Millenium won the Intel Extreme Masters Sao Paulo. The last road stop a few weeks ago, they picked up a win, so they've earned that spot here, traveled, arguably slightly weaker field of competition than what we have here at the World Championship, but it's going to be a very big game. So we do have still a couple minutes to kill before we jump into this one. Let's talk now about the AD carries and supports. Creatine and J-Re, what are they going to offer? You've already alluded that J-Re can pull out the Zillion. They like to play different picks. Creatine's been very vocal about the minimal impact he's had in recent weeks. How do you think they're going to do against this Korean bottom lane?
I think it will, Score and Creation, I feel like they have some kind of the same playstyle. Both of both of them loves to play as well. Except for that, both of them plays Lucian as well. All the standard AD carries, there's not too much difference there. I think the difference will come in to where the supports are going to be played. Because Jerry, he plays Morgana as well. He plays it as a counter to Leona. And Korean teams, if they see it otherwise, you'll have a really fun matchup there.
I think Mafa's definitely going to resort to this like standard like Thresh, Leona and Annie support pick. So I think it's up to Jerry to either match that or surprise him with his like curveballs. Probably in Millenium's favor if he does that, or in their best interest. I won't say in their favor. At the same time, like bot lane on KDB, like from what I understood, is a little bit passive. Like just make sure that score gets into the like mid game super solid, and then they start rotating. Because if they get to mid game, don't get too far behind. They'll just start rotating so well that the game is pretty much over at that point.
So let's expand on the actual champion pick just a tiny bit more. Basically, just because I want to have a little dig here at Crepo. Morgana versus Leona. It's a matchup that didn't go particularly well.
Don't know what you're talking about, Trevor.
Super Week. Special, I think, had some good positioning. Let's put it
my
that
number,
way.
my European and my American number.
Morgana versus Leona. There was some talk going into Super Week, basically, that Morgana was the counter to Leona. At least that was the general public consensus. After seeing games and seeing how Leona can still follow up on the Zenith Blade and then stun the AD carry if Pete's standing too close to you, how on earth does this actually play out, in your opinion, as a support player?
Alright, so let's look at the fundamentals. What does Morgana have to offer that's what does well against Leona? Black Shield. Why? Because it blocks CC and she can't pop it because she doesn't have enough magic damage. What's a good Leona gonna do? Okay, she's gonna E in and you have to Black Shield, because if you don't, you end up stunning the AD carry. That's the standard. From there on, if the Leona E's in and you're in a position where you can't escape anymore, she'll turn on you. But you have to be smart enough, and not like I did that game, because I know like that's the way you play Leona into Morgana. You have to back out. So it does force Morgana back out in the lane, but your AD carry can still stand up front, get black shielded, and then you want to put the bind on Leona immediately, and then just walk away, poke her down, and once she does that a few times, she'll be low enough. If, however, you slip up and you give her a kill, she'll get so tanky that she'll stop caring about your poke, and she can go all in. But I do feel it's a skill matchup, but I still feel a good Morgana will have the edge. Especially if you're not used to playing against one, and I can believe that in Korea it's not played so much.
No, I don't think we've actually seen any support Morganas over the last few weeks. I'm going to go on a limb and I'll make that claim. We touched on the mid laners, Ryu versus Kerp. Both of these players like assassins. LeBlanc is a priority pick. You specifically brought up that Ziggs and Gragas have been played by Kerp to great success in the past. Is it a viable strategy to focus out assassin bans and try to get Kerp on a farming wave clear type champion? Or do you think he's going to maybe play to the strengths and go all in?
I think if they actually want to ban out more assassins and Kerb is going to play the farm-heavy champions, then I don't think it's the best strategy, because the KT Bullet bottom lane is playing passive. I would actually love to see Martha on something like Annie or something like Fresh that can basically just pull people out if Aaron actually decides to gank. Because he will have to gank other lanes in mid if he has a farm-heavy champion, so Kerb can go on, take the wolves and raves, and get really, really fed because of that. So I would say they should aim to get LeBlanc, get mid ganks going, and then possibly roam two-man bottom to actually stop KT Bullets from farming.
At the same time, it's not been looking too great for them, for Millenium that is, whenever they play LeBlanc. Even if Kerp gets ahead early, they seem to struggle in the mid game, and they try to make those picks, but like LeBlanc can only make one pick at a time, and if a team is grouping up and still the remaining players are strong enough to like out-rotate you or just out-push you on the remainder of lanes, they might have a lot of trouble. I feel farming up this AoE wave clear champion gives you a little bit of an escape, or a little bit of band-aid. If it ever goes wrong, he can go into whatever lane is getting pressured and clear that immediately. Especially Ziggs, if bot lane is getting pushed in, he can just throw out his ultimate and you're safe for another 30 seconds. So I almost would like to see Kerp play these long-range farm champions, and then just hope he can push up and roam, because Kerp's unpredictable whenever he plays. It's a very hard player to play against. Sometimes in solo queue, I remember when I met him, I'd be like, what is he doing? Why is he doing this? Is there a jungler here?
In a positive way, of course.
Just sometimes positive, sometimes negative, because it works out sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's the value of an unpredictable player.
That's the truth, I guess. All right, just another quick update. We are just waiting for a few more members of the KT Bullets to join backstage. Sharks will be introducing them in just a moment or two. Let's take a look now at the fact that KT Bullets have had 2 weeks in the dock. All right, the last time they played Masters, I do believe was about 2 weeks ago, almost to the day. They haven't played any matches. On the other hand, Millenium have had a super week on 4.2. It is a slightly older patch. Does KT Bullets have an advantage when it comes to preparing for this matchup, knowing what Millenium has played recently? You know, who is the advantage prep-wise coming in, considering 2 weeks, no recent matches?
I do think it's an advantage to, like, nobody knows anything about you. It's obviously going to be an advantage. But I think Millenium is not too easy to actually ban out because, like, they can play the assassins, they can play farm-heavy champions. They don't necessarily have to play that aggressive, though it's in their favor if they do play aggressive. So I think if KT Bullets perfected their pick and ban phase, then they will have the advantage.
At the same time, though, I believe Korea has patch 4.3 a little later, so they don't have as much like experience on the patch that pretty much changed the landscape of early mid game, especially for supports. How that's gonna go. I do want to point out that in Korea, like the Bullets were called the gatekeeper, I believe. They ended up losing against every team that ended up winning, like OG and Spring or even the qualifier for Worlds. Everybody wanted to see them at Worlds, but they lost to SKTT1, and they did rather well at Worlds. And so maybe if Millenium takes this, does that mean Millenium is going to take it off?
So just to expand on that story, 7 separate tournaments the KT Bullets have lost to a team that went on to win it. Includes NBLs, includes OGNs, includes WCGs, and includes the Season 3 World Championship. So they are truly the gatekeepers of at least the Eastern world. We'll see if it holds true. I don't know if the group play is what counts. Regardless, they are finally ready on stage. So Shocks, please do introduce the KT Bullets and Millenium.
Thank you very much, guys. We are indeed ready to meet the teams here. We're gonna start off, of course, on the blue side from Europe and the winners of the Intel Extreme Masters in Sao Paulo. Give it up for Millenium. And on the red side, the Korean powerhouse with Insect back in the jungle. Ladies and gentlemen, the KT Roaster Bullets. We have our teams ready. The first game of the day was already phenomenal, and there's no doubt in my mind that this one's gonna be even better. So let's go over to our commentators. Take it away, guys.
Thank you very much, Shocks, and this could be a fantastic game. Millenium, they love their level 1 fights. They love to go aggressive. They're not doing that great in the LCS, though, up against the KT Bullets, who themselves have, in Monty's words, gone dark for the last 3 weeks. We're not really sure what they're going to turn up like.
One thing we do know, though, is how they actually played in Masters, and it wasn't good enough. Like, it wasn't the level of KT Bullets we saw last season. Vision control were always on top for them. They got so many picks. They got the Barons. This time around in Masters and in the 4.3 patch, actually, we haven't seen anything from them. Anything we actually want to see, at least. So KT Bullets, for me, have to come in here, show they improved, and then they will be able to take down Millenium because they are the favorites. Millenium have to do everything in their power. They have to play absolutely perfect if they want to win this game.
And you can see there, Aranea, the Spanish Insect, he was called by Diamond back in Moscow in the summer of 2013. He's up against the real Insect this time around, and that is a arduous task, I feel. It's going to be interesting to see how he turns up for this event.
Yeah, because both junglers have actually been underperforming quite a lot here in recent weeks. Insect, his performances, he had like a vibe pick in Masters where everything went wrong for him. We've seen Aranea obviously in the LCS being very hit and miss. He has some very good games, and then he has some very bad games. So both these junglers really need to step up the game and help out their team.
And we're just waiting for the teams to sort themselves out. They're just joining and getting in there. Of course, as was mentioned on the analysis test, Leopard coming into this one, he did play before as a sub.
Yeah.
So it's not completely new to this, but this is going to be his first tournament really as that new top laner. This is a big ask for him.
It's very big. I mean, if he's nervous, I wouldn't blame him at all. There's a very big crowd here. And obviously he wants to show that he's the right top laner for KT Bullets because he's not official yet. So he's still trying to prove himself to be the right top laner, keep Insect in the jungle. So for him coming in here, I know for a fact he's been working a lot on Ryze here in the 4.3 patch, which is very strong now with Dawn Shield being nerfed. So Ryze, and also with his Q, has been buffed, so the range is now longer, which means you can do a Q combo. Beforehand, you had to run closer before you could do it. So Ryze is a very good top lane pick, scales really well into late game. So I actually want to see him play it. And I want to see what Millenium have to counter this Ryze pick.
And obviously, Froggen talked about the LeBlanc picks for Rio. Maybe we're going to see that. And Skull Math are up against Creaton Jerry. Creaton Jerry have been a very good part of Millenium over the last few weeks.
Yeah, as a bot lane, they go together. Like, both of them, if they perform, they are one of a very, very strong bot lane. They can always try and set up plays to have a lot of different picks, a lot of picks you actually don't expect. We have Tushana for Creaton, we have Cillian, and obviously Blitzcrank from Jerry. Things you don't normally see. If they can try and pull something out new here, and if they can actually perform in the lane, they are very strong.
So here we go, picks and bans underway, and they are going thick and fast. You can already see Annie Lee Sin being banned out by Millenium. They don't want Insec on Lee Sin, and well, I can't blame them. Best jungler in the world, back at the All-Stars in Shanghai. Evelyn and Ziggs being banned out by KT Bullet so far, and there is the Kassadin ban. We talked about it. Kerb simply does not play it. They didn't want to let it through.
They don't want to risk going to late game against this Kassadin. Even though it's weaker early on, they don't want to fight KT Bull's late game with a Kassadin. The Annie-ban I like, because Maffa, he loves the hard engaged supports. He's more or less forced to go Leona now if you want to be this engaging part, and that's where Jerry has something like a Morgana as a counter pick towards it.
So Trundle was banned out as the final ban for KT Bullets, and that Lulu, well, it was insta-locked. Is this going to be Kerb?
Could be Kerb, could also be Kevin top lane. We've seen Lulu top before. It is
in the last game?
very, very strong. Exactly. She's a very good top laner. She's a lane bully. And also mid lane wise, of course, it's the same. Very safe, very hard to gank, and you do well the entire game. So I like this Lulu first pick. And I'm not sure if KTB actually expected it.
And what do we make of this? Because Sivir is basically the #1 pick for Korea as an AD carry, yet Europe still really hasn't picked it up.
But the thing is about Sivir, for the Korean teams, for the Chinese teams, they use it when they do the rotations. They use it to set up fights, set up picks, pick the right team fight for them. If you have something like Leona and Sivir, you speed up your team, you pop the ultimate from Leona, and you have started a fight. And there's no way to avoid it from Millenium's side. So that's why one of the reasons they absolutely love Sivir, and they love to pick her early on, together also with something like an Elise, all around one of the best junglers onto Insec.
Well, Elise was selected for Insec, so in that jungle along with that Sivir, and currently LeBlanc is being hovered over by Millenium here.
So the blank pick again, Froggen talked about how both mid laners, they absolutely love to play it. It would mean though the Lulu pick would either go onto Jerry as support or onto the top lane on Kevin's side.
Locked in?
Locked in, so it will be LeBlanc for Kerb here. His go-to assassin. This is the one he loves to carry on, he's the one he loves to get early kills. He often builds early DFG, push out his lane, then he goes roaming and start killing people everywhere.
We'll see how that works out for him. Caitlyn also locked in there for Creaton. So definitely going to have the range advantage over Sivir, but as you mentioned, they play it very different in Korea, the Sivir.
They do play it very different. We often see them actually lane swap as well with it. But the thing here is, normally actually, you see people banning out Caitlyn when they want to early pick the Sivir, because Caitlyn is very good against her in lane. You have such a range advantage onto Caitlyn. You have so much poke you can put onto Sivir once she can't really respond to you. So we will see how the laning phase will go. If it's paired up with Lulu, that's a lot of poke onto Sivir early on. It's very hard for her to actually get in close to get the CS she wants.
Well, that Nidalee and Renekton coming out, so Ryu will be playing Nidalee in that mid, so he's going to be keeping a long distance from LeBlanc, and Renekton, well, that top laner, arguably the strongest top laner currently.
In my opinion, yeah, overall the strongest top laner. You have full lane control, you're such a lane bully. Dawn's shield nerf makes it even harder because you can't start this item against you. Well, you can, but it's worse now than it was before. So it's even harder to deal with his upfront damage early on. And then, with combined with something like an Elise, very good dive combo. If they push down Kevin to his turret, Elise comes up, they dive him, dead. There's pretty much nothing he can do against it. Nidalee pick. We actually had Millenium against Fnatic in the Super Week last week, where Peggy played the Nidalee, he went barrier, and he still actually died to Kerb. 2 or 3 times in the laning phase, or just after the laning phase, Kerb managed to kill him with the early DFG. Let's see if he can try and do the same here onto Rio.
Well, if they go for the Kazakhs along with Sona, this is a crazy aggressive comp from Millenium. They really want to be looking for those kills because everybody is going all in here. So, Kazakhs for Aranea and J-Re on that Sona.
And Kazakhs actually got nerfed in this patch. His Q damage has been slightly reduced, and also his AD ratio on his jump has been reduced by quite a lot. His ultimate though is a little bit changed. If you involve it, you're still for 1 more second, and also you can run through units, pretty much like Ghost. So in that case, he's very good at staying alive now, or better at staying alive in team fights, but he will have less upfront damage. And Kazakh's jungle, you need to have a good early game. You need to get either some good farms, some good early kills, so you can get the items you want. You want some early armor penetration, and you can then go in and start assassinating someone from the enemy team.
So what do we think? Final pick here will be the the bottom lane support. What are you going to go up against Sona? Are you going to be diving in? Are you going to go aggressive? I mean, this is Maffa we're talking about. Thresh was left open, and that is his champion.
Well, that and also Leona. But I don't think he actually felt like going Leona against Zona. Risky with a lot of poke coming in from Zona, and also if he was all-inning, Kha'Zix was nearby, jump to him and kill him. It could potentially have been the tactic for Millenium if they expected the Leona pick. So instead he goes more safe. Thresh provides pretty much everything he wants. You have the Lantern to save out if Kha'Zix jumps in. You have the slows. You have the good hook. You can do everything you want onto Thresh from him. So very nice lineup for KTB actually. Strong early game with Renekton. Good laning phases, except for Nidalee, who's slightly weaker than the rest in early on, but the rest of their lineup is very good. And also this late game scaling with Sivir, obviously with Nidalee, the spears, once you get to these poking team fights or when you poke before the team fight actually starts, very hard to deal with. And that's where Millenium more or less just have to engage in. They have to just go in, make sure they don't get hit by these spears, pop in with the bunk, instant kill a target. Kha'Zix jumps in, or someone goes low, he goes in, gets the reset, he can continue jumping.
Are they going to be able to? I mean, you talked about they got on the hunt from Score. He's going to be using that. Maffa can use his ultimate in full-on disengage mode, so they're going to be really hard to catch this KT Bullets team.
And that's another reason they love Sivir, because you're so mobile with your team, you decide when you want to fight. But the lineup here from Millenium side actually is very mobile as well. You have counter engage pretty well with someone like Zona. If people jump in your face, you can ultimate them straight in the face because people don't want to group up against the Zona. Also, you have obviously the move speed buff. You had Caitlyn with her net. You have the jumps on the Blanc, jumps onto Kha'Zix, and also Lulu obviously is very, very mobile, very good at counter engaging. So both these combos can actually both start fights, but also avoid fights.
Well, we are about to get underway, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited, that's for sure, because this is the first time I've ever got to commentate on the KT Bullets. They didn't make it to the World Championships, and as Quickshot pointed out earlier on, 7 times whoever's beaten them have gone on to win the tournament. Can Millenium do it?
It would be quite some pressure onto them if they actually win this game. Like everyone will expect them to win the tournament then. But Millenium as a team, as they talked about on the analyst desk, there's no pressure. They can just go in here and play more or less free because everyone is expecting KT Bullets to be the favorites and be the winners. So let's see what Millenium can actually bring out. And especially this Zona pick, I haven't seen Jerry play that in forever.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are underway for Game 2. Millenium facing off against the KT Bullets as the red team. The Intel Extreme Masters World Championships. Loser will be facing Fnatic. Winner will be going up against Invictus Gaming. Who will it be? That's the question. Let's go through the comp straight away. Standard top lane, Doran's Shield versus Doran's Ring.
Doran's Shield versus Doran's Ring. Obviously, Renekton doesn't want to get poked too much by Lulu early on, and he wants to be in a position where he can actually get to Lulu, but with the Doran's Ring, we have some good wave flow onto Kevin early, and also a lot of good damage. And the thing we notice, we actually have the Spell Thief onto Zona here, so that's very good poke early on, because you have this extra ability power, and also every time you auto attack with your charges, you will get 5 gold, and also you will do extra magic damage onto them, so it's a very good starting item. It does mean, however, if Jerry gets hooked, he's very, very squishy.
And we should also talk about the Ruby Gem start for Maffa, because this is something that we've started to see developing in the 4.3 patch, because that Doran's Shield was nerfed.
Doran's Shield was nerfed, and also Ruby Crystal was actually nerfed a little bit. The HP got reduced by 30, and instead now the gold cost of it is 400. Before it was 475.
Yeah.
So you can start Ruby Crystal, 2 potions. It simply also means that when he goes back, he can either get an early Sidestone, or he can go into someone like a Doran's Shield if he wants to be more tanky. But if he goes early Sidestone, he can change his trinket onto the Sweeping Lens, and he has some vision control.
And look at the map, we can see 2v1 switches here, and actually 4 members of KT Bullets moving in. Kevin's got to be careful. He doesn't get caught out, flashes away. Clever bit of play from Kevin. Didn't want to get caught by that death sentence.
Didn't want to take any chances, but it's an issue because it's 2v1. If Elise moves up to dive him later on, he won't have his flash to survive, and he will actually be forced to more or less back away from his turret. He also used his trinket ward now, so there's no extra vision for him.
Yeah, safe play there. Nevertheless, we do see Aaron countering himself. He's going to go in and steal away the blue buff from KT Bullets' jungle. We do see KT, of course, sticking around. Leopard here, it's hanging around. He's going to make sure he gets to level 2. Well, I don't think he's going to hit level 2 before he gets there. He'll be very close to it before he returns to lane.
But it's very smart to actually keep Leopard here to get some farm in the jungle, because if he goes down to bot lane, he will just be stuck at his own turret anyway, due to him waiting for Millenium to push up the wave. So very smart. If he gets early level 2 here, it will be harder to dive him, in case that's the tactic from Millenium. And meanwhile, just like we talked about in Champ Select, what they have been doing with Sivir in Korea is lane swapping. They do the same here. Don't want to risk going against this very heavy poke combo with both Sona and Caitlyn. So wisely enough, lane swap and also got the blue buff.
Well, we just saw in the previous game how hard it was for Soaz to do that lane swap, how hard it was to deal with that combo, and you can already see he's stuck on that tower, can't go aggressive. The fact that he's already burnt that flash out as well means he has to be so passive right now.
And look where Elise is already. She's at the big wave. She can actually rotate up top here when the wave is getting pushed in, and they can dive him because there is no way for him to survive this without the flash. But let's see what KTB does. And look at Kevin's position already around the turret. He knows potentially a dive could be there, so he's just backing off wisely enough.
Yeah, and you look at Arenea's position, actually, he's looking at doing similar in that bottom lane, so the counter moves is the 2 dives. However, wardless place there. Ryu getting taken very low in the mid lane by Kerp. Early aggression seemingly working in Kerp's favor.
And Kerp will have the advantage here, but Insec is actually coming in for the gank.
He's going to try and come around the side there. Kerp should be able to get away, just flashes away from that cocoon. But again, another summoner spell burn.
Yeah, 2 flashes down early on. Insec doing some work here, giving some help onto Nidalee, who needs it early on, where she is very weak. She needs some levels before she can do something. And now Aranea needs to be careful because Insect is coming in, and also Renekton is there.
Very squishy, doesn't get stunned out. That's what Leopard wanted to do there. Instead, uses those Void Spikes to get away and just pounces out of danger. So he's safe for a moment and actually drew Insect towards him, which will slow down the counter jungling because Insect was all over the place in the opening start of this game.
Yeah, but the rotation Insect decided to do was first he was around the top lane in case they wanted to dive, but because Kevin was so far back, he didn't feel like offering an Aranea going on to Insect.
Going aggressive, and he's going to have the help of Kerp coming around the moment. Can they get close enough? The Dissonant comes out there, does manage to repel away, turns it back on towards Kerp. Can they get the stun down on towards him? Void Spikes come back out, and he does get healed off by Ryu.
So Insect, he managed to get away, but very aggressive play from Aranea here. Instantly as he spot him, jumps onto him, wants to fight because Kerb was close to him. But again, the rotation from Insect simply meant now that the flash was burned from Kerb mid lane, and also down bot lane, Aranea couldn't dive because Insect was there. And now this top turret is already going down very early on.
Very early aggression from KT Bullets there, working out well. 5-minute turret. You see the bottom turret also going to go down, so both back and forward. Kerp, of course, with that flash burn, doesn't matter. He's got this distance. He can just burst himself away from that one. Insec is looking for kills. He's looking for that early aggression. Hasn't found it just yet.
He's actually also getting slightly out-farmed now. It doesn't mean too much here so early on, but he needs to make sure he can pick up the farm he wants, because in Masters, he's been very active ganking-wise, but often falling behind in CS because he's focusing too much on simply ganking. He wants to do something all the time.
At the moment, we do see the Wraith going in towards there. So, Millenium, will they keep pushing? Because Insec is nearby. And I think they're going to be well aware of it. They've already just pinged out towards the blue buff. They know that Insec is probably close by, so they're going to back off. Rotation's coming back in. We see Score and Mappa, they've gone back. They've purchased some items, and they are going back towards the bottom turret now, which means Kevin finally will get a bit of respite. He went for a second Doran's Ring.
And let's see now if KT Bulls want to force an early Dragon, because Renekton, he's still down in this bot lane. Sivir is running down to him, Fresh is in the mid lane, Kevin is left up in his top lane, he's far away from any dragon if it should happen. So let's see if KT Bulls want to try and set something up here, due to simply the fact that kept Renekton bot lane.
Would be a very early dragon, just 6 minutes in there. Aranea does get that ping ward down and spots out the trinket. The Insect just plays straight in there. It does mean he's going to pull some aggression, will jump away from that cocoon, and they want to straight away take that ping ward down. It is the dragon that KT Bullets want.
And there's full vision on Kevin, they know he's not there. Let's see if Millenium wants to try and jump in here and steal it. Would be very risky from Aranea, he's only level 4, so they actually wisely enough back away. Very good move by KT Bullets, because now Renekton can recall and return to this top lane and get some of the CS going towards his turret.
Quick early dragon objective taken for the KT Bullets, which gives them that slight gold advantage, but it's not a bad start for Millenium here. And despite the early pressure that KT Bullets have been trying to apply, Millenium have certainly kept themselves well in this game in the early phases.
Generally, it's been a very close early game here. Both junglers had the same idea at first, but then everything got swapped around. And now both supports against each other. We need to see how much Jerry and Kreaton can actually do to punish Sivir in this lane, how much CS they can deny her. And instantly we actually see her backing away, up to do the wolves, because they can't stay in the lane against this very poke combo from Millenium.
Yeah, and of course Aranea, he's been aggressive looking for those kills. Rio's also been taking some poke in that mid lane, but he has kept himself ahead in farm. Aranea looking to try and create something again. Ryu being aggressed upon by Kerp, constantly poking him down. Aranea came in, but again, he's not able to make his presence felt yet.
He's simply not able to make any gank, but he doesn't really have to. At the moment, he can still try and farm up, get the level 6, get his stealth, and then try and set something up. But Kurt, you see him constantly going aggressive onto Rio because he wants to try and force him out of the lane, but it's not working for him. And Insec is mid once again.
Insec comes around, and again, Kerp just dashes away from this one. Look at the top lane. Triple Doran's ring now for Kevin. He's really struggling out, and that's always the sign of pressure on your mid lane, top lane champions.
It's actually the Source build as well, where you focus on winning the lane, you focus on winning 1 versus 1, and you might even stay split pushing later on because you have this very lane-focused build. It will delay his key items for later on, but for now he's very, very strong and he's very hard to kill. That's also why you see KT Bullets putting all the focus onto mid lane, making sure Nidalee can get all the farm she needs, and she's actually ahead in CS.
Well, we do see wards out towards that blue. Remember, KT Bullets, while they came and stole it, they didn't clear it out, so they won't actually have the timers on it. It was Arane that came in there and took down the 2 small other lizards. But, well, Insec, he's continuing to skitter around the jungle, trying to keep his farm relevant. And again, going back towards that white, he has been farming this non-stop.
And he's actually a little bit behind in XP compared to Arane, who, by the way, involves his E as the first thing. So he will get resets if he can pick up something in team fights. But Insec now got the level 6 he wants. Let's see what he actually decides to do, because Dragon is not up. Millenium have rotated their bot lane into this mid lane, trying to shove it down because there's no wave clear onto Nidalee in this case.
Everybody collapsing in though. Look at KT Bullets. They're ready to come in from 3 different angles. It doesn't always work out. Remember, Crescendo is not available yet for J-Re. He hasn't hit level 6. And Millenium, well, they already back away. Those wards paying them dividends. They knew the vision and they did avoid the situation.
Very smart, and they didn't actually lose anything bot lane because both Sivir and Fresh were moving towards the mid lane, so they couldn't push it up, couldn't get it to the turret of Millenium. It's a good rotation, but nothing really coming from it yet. And now KT Bullets want to push out this top lane.
Kevin continued to keep on poking with that glitter lance, just caught Insect, knew he was coming in towards those bushes. This mid lane, you know, we've seen Kerp putting so much pressure continually on towards Ryu, but Ryu's still ahead in farm. Heads off, goes for the race. He's going to keep him ahead. See if it works out in terms of gold, though, and what items they head towards at the moment. Bottom lane is backing off, and that means Millenium are going to have themselves yet more time to keep farming. And Creaton, he's keeping a good advantage over score so far.
Yeah, and both teams seem to be happy going towards this mid-game. We don't see too much aggression here. The ganks have kind of stopped coming in. Both junglers have been farming. And of course the bot lane, Creaton is keeping his CS lead. And meanwhile, now that Nidalee has some levels, she can really start roaming around the map, go to raves, do them. Also wave clear easily enough if she's alone at the turret, as long as Millenium is not there with multiple people trying to hit her or hit the turret.
Well, we continue to see how this top lane pairing is going to go, because they are really going to be playing completely different roles when the team fights start. And I'm wondering, with Millenium being such effectively a single target focused team, how that's going to affect, because Renekton is going to be in their faces the entire time, and if they don't get that one single pick, which you were saying, Arane, evolving that E, he wants to get in, get out, get that kill, and quickly get out of there. If that doesn't work out for them, where are they going to go?
It's actually also the reason you see the early magic resist onto Renekton, because he doesn't want to get bursted down by LeBlanc, by Lulu, and then giving up a kill. And now Arane going on to him.
Well, he manages to get his unseen threat proc on towards him, but he's tanking out the turret. Wild Growth is going to be used, and they really did not count that one at all. Just complete lack of focus. And the Dominus from Leopard should be enough. We did also see down this bottom lane, you can see the Exhaust was used on J-Re. J-Re taken low. He will get away from this one though, and now they're going to try and turn that aggression back on towards Insect. Takes a couple of tower hits. Kerp is going to keep on coming down, but I don't think he's going to get close enough.
So Arane, he showed top, and instantly we see Insect trying something in the bottom lane. They need to be careful though, because they are rather low, and we now see Kerp coming around the corner. Can he get in for something?
Ace in the hole being blocked off by that spell shoot from Score. There goes Kerp trying to close the distance. Oh, he's caught on towards Score. That's going to get the stun down. Manages to throw the leash out once again on towards Insect. Have they got the damage for this one though? Mappa getting taken solo. Ryu's going to join the party. They do get first blood, but Kerp's in all sorts of trouble now. He gets himself away. Can he turn the favor back on towards Score? No! It's going to be 3 kills for KT Bullets. A great counterplay. And Millenium, well, they just took that one hook, line and sinker.
And absolutely perfect for KT Bullets here. They managed to delay dying to Kerp, so Nidalee could come down, join in for the fight here, and 3 kills for them. Everything they needed. Such a good move from him. And Insect picked up 2 kills on 2 Lees, so he's gonna be very strong now. And also they got that very crucial kill onto Sivir.
And this spells danger early on for Millenium. So often their early aggression, sometimes it works, but often it gets countered and it's easily read.
And just like you talked about earlier, we actually see Leopard going on to Kevin. Let's see if he can get something.
Well, he's managed to get that spectral cowl onto him, so he's not fearful of Kevin's damage anymore. Of course, he's only got that Sorcerer's Boots and 3 Doran's Rings, and he's quite happy to trade now with Kevin.
Yeah, and as you talked about earlier, what can Millenium do if they don't actually burst down the first target? Because that's what they need to get the reset onto someone like Aranir. And again, the fact they are falling behind, the fact that now Insect has an Engine Golem, we have early magic resist onto Renekton, it makes it harder and harder for them to pick the right targets. And they're actually going to rely on KT Bullets being out of position with one of the squishy targets. Because also we have Barrier and a Fiend's onto Nidalee. She's going to be hard to kill as well. Spell Shield onto Sivir. It's going to be very hard for them to pick the target, and that might actually mean that they can't really teamfight.
Well, objective control still in KT Bullet's favor. They come straight back around for that dragon. Aranir is going to put the stealth. He's going to jump in for this one, but KT have already pulled that. That's his ultimate wasted and used. Gonna have to back away. Well played by KT Bullets once again.
And we also see Leopard moving all the way from top lane down to mid as soon as they start the dragon. If a fight should have happened, he would have been there to join. And that's what he can do because he's constantly pushing out the top lane. So Kevin is forced to stay and farm while he can rotate. And now KT Bullets, they might be able to take up the turret.
We've seen so many times those spears, they create opportunities for teams. And they're continuing to come through. Once it catches onto someone, it effectively means that siege is over and they will take the tower, and that's exactly what's going to happen here.
And it only gets worse the longer you go into the game. When there's a death cap, when there's a void staff, it's going to be even better for Rio. Every time lands a spear, you more or less have to recall, get home guard boots before you can set something up. But Kirk coming in from the side.
They're going straight in towards this one. Kirk, though, is going to get caught out. The crescendo is used, but purely defensively. Have they got the damage for score? Will he go down? No, he's safe. And now they're going to turn this one back around. Insect, he gets caught out. Glitterlance comes in. Piltover Peacemaker from Kraton gets the kill. It's a 1-for-1 trade because Aranir went down at the start.
So they do get one kill. Yeah, Aranir, he got caught by a spear, so he actually died. Meanwhile, though, Leopard was left in the top lane, pushing down to the turret, getting some good damage onto it. And now Nidalee coming around as well. Let's see what they can do because Kevin, he might be dived here.
They've got the stun on towards him. The spear lands, and they're just like that. KT Bullets just wreck Lulu.
Instantly good decision making here. They spot Kevin moving up too close to Renekton, gets in with the stun. Fast kill for them. Very nice play, and even though there was a kill onto Millenium, they still lose out on the trade.
Kirk not managing to land on towards it there, putting the damage back on Rio. The death sentence has been thrown out purely defensively, and again the spear thrown out. Oh, Aranir just jumping on towards him. It hasn't got the resets, hasn't got close enough, didn't even land the snow, trying to use anything to get close to Nidalee, but Nidalee's there tough to catch.
Tough to catch, have the barrier, and also the damage onto Aranir at this point is not very high. Involved is E, so he won't get any additional damage there, and at the same time, he doesn't even have Elder Lizard yet.
Well, as the base is flowing here in Intel Extreme Masters, we are in game 2, and the KT Bullets, well, as expected, are looking strong coming into this game, starting to slowly close out the objectives. They're taking all 3 of those outer turrets, and it's the inner turrets they're focusing on next. That top lane's already been pressured pretty heavily, and Insect, he's everywhere right now, always pressuring that jungle. Aranir's been trying to counter him as much as he can, and at the moment, it looks like it's going to be a fight for the blue.
And if they can actually manage to get someone Aranir to have to smite the blue so Kerb doesn't pick it up, it's very good for them. They seem though they're just going in. Everyone from the team is here. Leopard a little bit far away, but he can join in very fast. Takes an easy blue buff, and KT Bullets, they're in full control at the moment. Let's see if they can actually close out the game then.
Just gonna again dash away. KT Bullets rotating perfectly. 5 members all straight down here. And again, Millenium, they have to give up the turret. The spears continue to throw forward, and KT Bullets, they're chasing this one. They might continue pushing.
And every single spear signals that Millenium have to delay fighting. But if they wait for too long, the tower will go down. They're going in!
The crescendo goes down, but is it enough? No damage really following up on that one, and KT Bullets happily just disengage, and Millenium not able to lay down anything onto the bullets.
So, pretty much the main engage for Millenium is now gone. The crescendo, the flash crescendo actually from Sona is away. Kirk, he might be caught out here, wise enough, dashes over the wall. So now KT Bullets can just stay here, land the spears, and try and hit on turn. They're going again!
Siege minion is there, Wild Growth being thrown onto Aranir as he jumps in. Kirk completely situated, trying to run away from this one. Duke's nicely there, does manage to get away from Insect, but again, not really any damage laid down. They're trying their best to pick someone off, but they are not focused. And just like that, the spear comes through, following the stun of Leopard, and Kirk was just removed from the map.
And that was a desperate call by Millenium. When they don't have Sonar ultimate, you don't want to engage with Kha'Zix. You want to jump in when people are low so you can get the reset. But they were forced to do something. So Arne, he jumped in, got the wild growth from Kevin to try and knock some people up and start the fight. But it was too easy for KT Bullet to just disengage. And then they actually caught out Kirby with a very nice stun from Insect and just managed to kill him instantly.
And Millenium are in danger of being wrecked here. This is a 18-minute inhibitor they're pushing for. They didn't quite finish it off. The disengage once again, but they've already taken the turret down, and Millenium are in real trouble now. This is a confident start from the KT Bullets.
Very good start. They're using the combo perfectly. As soon as they got the early lead, they're just using the lead. And Kurt, he's going in again.
He's going to go in, but what on earth for? Because they're going to try and follow through. Arne doesn't get the reset. He can't jump out because Leopard survives once again. And you do have to question some of the picks from Millenium. This has not worked in their favor at all.
But Millenium have to try something. That's what they're doing here. They just want to try and get a kill, but because they're so far behind already, they don't have the damage they need. They can't pick up these kills. Only Elder Lizard and 2 long swords onto Kha'Zix. If you no damage onto a Renekton, they're so tanky already. So Millenium, while it looks more or less bad that they're constantly jumping in, it's actually the only thing they can do with this combo at the moment.
It is a fully engaged comp, and that's, like you say, what they need to do, but the fact that they don't get the kills, it's a little too late, it seems, or it certainly feels that way. They get themselves the mid-turret, which is a big bonus, but look at Jerry, he's caught out, Insect going aggressive, and start to pile down the pressure. Creator really unable to help defend his support there.
And let's see what KT Bullet's plan is now. They can either go towards the Baron, ward it up, take it fairly easily against this Millenium, force them to come out the base to fight them, or they can just group up, once again, go down to either the open inhibitor, or just go down to the next turret, start landing spears, and just do the same siege we just saw before.
Yeah, the rotate is on. All of KT Bullets making their way towards his bottom inner turret. Arne is forced to back away. Millenium completely out of position. Kerp continuing to push that top lane, which means, well, KT Bullets are going to pretty much be giving this one for free.
There's nothing they can really do because there's no flash onto Jerry. He's the main engage. Sona is the main engage here, unless you have Kerp jumping in from the side, but KT Bullets have good vision around, not giving Kerp any chance to do what he wants, and this is just a very easy turret for them.
And Leopard, he's not even needed for this one. He started coming down and it's like, you know what? I'm just going to take that middle turret myself. I'm just going to keep that pressure on. The rest of KT Bullets are pushing on towards the bottom inhibitor turret. Millenium are floundering right now. They're trying to find out. They're trying to pick someone off, but KT Bullets have them completely at their disposal and just rotating around, taking anything they please.
And everything for KT Bullets now is working. Every single rotation they do, they get a turret, they get a dragon, they get something every single time, so they just extend the lead. And a few times Millenium actually tried to fight. It didn't work for them. KT Bullets disengaged very beautifully and just turned it around in the end.
Continuing to keep that pressure going. You can see Mafa just waiting to try and land one of those hooks. He wants to pull someone in. The spears keep on throwing through. There's another one rattling through. Sooner or later they do land and it forces someone back to that fountain. And KT Bullets, well, they're going to get aggressed upon, but that on the hunt being used by Skull to quickly turn it around. The aggression back on towards Kirp. He has to get away from there. And look how quick they could disengage from that one. That's the middle turret down. It's now 7 turrets to 2.
Once again, Sivir pops her ultimate when the fight is about to start. But again, it's Aranea jumping in first because there's no flash onto Sona. Jerry can't engage, so Aranea have to do it, and it doesn't work with Kha'Zix. That's not what he's good at. Then you need to pick Vi. Then you need to pick something like a Jarvan to go in and start the fight. Meanwhile, Sivir ultimate really been crucial for KT Bullets because it meant that every time they didn't want to fight, popped it in this case and going in here.
Inhibitor turret goes down, Crescendo comes across, but it only catches 2 members, and KT Bullets are just running through the Millenium team. We're only at the 21-minute mark, and this game is already looking over. The death sentence land, and Kevin goes down. That JV top lane certainly has not worked out for them. So often we see him playing tanky champions, but this time around, KT Bullets are confident they have this game in the bag.
And they're simply just so far ahead. That combo is so good in these fights. Whenever Millenium can't get anyone low, they can never do anything. So KT Bullets looking very strong.
Nexus turret is going to go down. Will the second one follow? KT Bullets continuing to keep the pressure on. Spear on Jerry. Insect sinks those fangs in and finishes the job. Second Nexus turret is down. We're not even 22 minutes into this game, ladies and gentlemen, and KT Bullets have turned up to win this tournament. They are looking the real deal. Will they finish it off this time around? I'm not sure. Millenium are trying to keep them at bay, but they are just so strong. Millenium can't get close. Oh, the spear.
They will actually try and go for this one. Ryu, he's coming down here towards him. Can they get the Nexus or will we have to delay the game?
They're just going to go in there. They're just playing. They're toying with their prey right now. Creaton again taking damage. He's going to throw that spear back out once again. Throws that on the hunt down. Now they're going to finish the game. We do see Aranea. They're desperate. They want to get something, but they can't. KT Bullets are just toying with them. It's like a cat with a mouse. And the Bullets are in dominant form. They're going to go through and face Invictus Gaming in the winner bracket. Meanwhile, it's Millenium versus Fnatic in the loser bracket.
So we get a European loser bracket, but also an Asian winner bracket here. Two teams who look very, very strong, especially KT Bullets in this game. We have to remember though, Millenium, with the combo, they needed to get ahead early on. They didn't manage to do it. Made it look even more one-sided in favor of KT Bullets, but they just look so good. And their decision making, every single thing they did. They got turrets, they got the dragons, everything was correct.
So 2 games running, we've seen Lulu top lane. Has not worked at all.
2 times we see lane swapped against it. And then it doesn't get the farm it needs early on. You can't be the lane bully you want to be. And it simply means that when people swap back, they can deal with you 1v1 and you don't really have any impact. The one time we saw Lulu top work in the LCS was actually where Source got 1 versus 1 against Darien and he killed him. Otherwise, not been working.
Not been working at all. What do we make of the 2 junglers? I mean, Aranea put his heart and soul into this one, but again, 0-4-0 up against Insect, the real deal at 4-2-3. He tried to get in there, but they just couldn't get the kills.
Exactly. Aranea, he tried to do so many things. There's so many times where he jumps in, someone is low, but he doesn't have the damage because they were behind as a team, and he couldn't get anything. He ends up dying. He tried. Insect, on the other hand, he was everywhere early on, starting the ganks. He was helping out Nidalee in the mid lane, and we actually saw him just from the 3 or 4 mark where first he showed top lane, Lulu backed off, he went mid lane, then he went bot lane to make sure Aranea couldn't dive either. So he was just everywhere on the map, and a very strong performance by him.
Fantastic performance by the KT Bullets. They will be going through to face Invictus Gaming, and to take us through that game, we're going to go over towards our analysis desk of Quickshot, Crepo, and Froggen.
Thank you very much, D-Man. Congratulations to KT Rolster Bullets for picking up that victory. Let's be fair, it was a slightly slower paced game. KTB got themselves a lead fairly early on and they didn't really give it up. Let's go back to picks and bans very quickly. We talked about LeBlanc, how important it was going to be for Kerb. He got his hands on that LeBlanc. The rest of the bans, Annie, Lee, and Cassidy, taken away from KTB. And of course on the side of Millenium, they lost Eve, Ziggs, and Trundle. I kind of feel like those were quite smart picks. It's ones that Millenium in particular have been using fairly well in the LCS.
Yeah, I think especially like the Lulu first pick, and then not contesting Renekton after that from KT Bullets was like really, really weird. I thought Renekton was like really, really high priority pick, and then they would like be all right with Millenium having the Lulu mid.
This probably ties into the Ryze Renekton matchup like we talked a lot about earlier. Maybe they considered Ryze a valid counter against Renekton and just didn't feel the need to rush him that early. I like that the Bullets ended up with Sivir. I mean, it's like like Korean AD carry, like champion of choice. At the same hand, I really like what they did. First pick, Lulu, solid pick. Like it can go mid. Worst case, it can go support. I'm still not sold on Lulu top as much. But it's versatile and people can't lock in LeBlanc. This is why the Bullets didn't pick LeBlanc, because Lulu does so well against LeBlanc, and that actually gave Millenium a chance to pick LeBlanc later in the drafting phase.
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't necessarily work out for them too well. The second game in a row that we've seen that Lulu top, and the second time in a row we've seen a lane swap against that Lulu. Do you think it was a determining factor, or was it overall strategy anyway?
I think in the grand scheme of things, the lane swap was a factor in why KT Bullets ended up winning this game. I don't think the lane swap was as detrimental to the game as the last one, because Kevin played it pretty well. I mean, max range, didn't get caught, didn't get poked, respected the dive. When Elise went mid, he like went back under his tower. He lost his turret rather early, but that's to be expected within the matchup. So I feel Millenium played that lane-wise pretty well, but it still was definitely in the Bullets' favor.
I think Kevin, I think he should have tried to pick a tank instead of going for the Lulu top, because what Ryu was playing was like, Lulu is good against pretty much everything. So why not just put the Lulu mid, go with the comfort champions and Kevin? Like, he's really, really strong on the tanks. We haven't seen him on AP champions. There's no reason to swap it up if it's actually working for them.
We saw that in the top lane as well, the little hesitation. I mean, Aranea ended up finally getting his first or second gank off, and they wanted to dive to the next, and then suddenly they realized, like, do you want to go in? You can go in. We're both really squishy. Nobody wants to be that tank under the tower. So they needed Kevin to actually be a lot more bulky than he was.
And on top of that, actually KT Bullets was ganking bottom lane at that time, where they actually forced Millenium away from the turret, and they had a successful gank with that while they were wasting time on the top lane.
Now, that's the 1v3 that I think we were talking about later on. Now, that was later in the game. Let's go back to the first 1v3.
Yeah.
It gave KT Bullets a nice, strong advantage. We actually seen both mid laners roaming down to get involved in the thing. Millenium started it, KT Bullets finished it. What was your take on that first trade?
That was actually a really nice, like, elongated play throughout the game because it showed like many factors of what the game actually is going to bring to us. Mid lane was rather passive. The only action that's going to happen is when those mid laners leave the lane and start roaming down. Kerp was the first one to arrive, but then we see the Bullets, you know, they just push in as far as they can, but they back off and then they switch on a target, you know. They're ready to make that switch, and we saw IG do that earlier today as well. You know, they back off and then they switch on that one target. Later in the fights, they would always switch on LeBlanc. Right there, they disengaged, let LeBlanc come. As soon as the two chains were down, they just jumped on her. Thresh sacrificed his life. Sure, Kirk got first blood, but it cost them all his cooldowns. Nidalee came in and they swept it 3 against 1. And from that point on, like we saw the Bullets rotate so well. Group up mid 4-man, Renekton stays top. Just not much Millenium could do at that point.
Yeah, I think definitely another big factor is that they didn't punish the Nidalee pick at all with their LeBlanc. LeBlanc is supposed to punish the Nidalee, but actually we saw them trade fairly even in the trades. And I think that has something to do with LeBlanc maxing W all the time. I think LeBlanc versus Nidalee, you should max your Q, because Nidalee has to go close to actually like even take CS. Else he has to stay really far back and farm with spears. And in that case, you're not gonna use your W for actually farming anyway. Then you want her to lose as many creeps as possible with letting the minions kill themselves. And basically, Nidalee would lose like 1 or 2 CS every single time that happens. He maxed W and basically couldn't dive the Nidalee because of the barrier.
What do you think the thought process was for Kerp? Was that a safety thing? Was that cooldown? Was it farming? I mean, if in your mind aggression is the way to counter that Nidalee, what was going through Kerp's mind theoretically for this particular game?
So every single time you're playing LeBlanc, everybody would pretty much just straight up max W because like, oh, it's low cooldown. It's almost the same burst. You have a lot more mobility doing that. But I think like if you need to like punish the Nidalee and you need to get as much burst as possible, it's extremely important you have the biggest burst. And I also think he built wrong with taking the Athene's Unholy Grail versus Nidalee compared to a Deathfire Grasp, because whenever Nidalee is farming, if she goes Cougar form, or if she just like try to farm with like constant heals and stuff, then you can punish her with Deathfire Grasping into the combo if you max Q, and it's extreme amount of damage.
That's a fair point. I don't think you're going to win that battle of attrition against a Nidalee necessarily. As to why he maxes W, a lot of LeBlancs like it, push up and roam. They just Millenium got too far behind on their first roam that he could no longer push and roam anymore. At the same time, like W works well on a low cooldown against the Elise ganks. It just didn't really pay off, and as Froggen said, I think the DFG was very detrimental. Not building it definitely made them lackluster in the mid game.
Well, it does mean the next round of the battles will be between IG as well as KTB. I believe Shox is on stage, ready to interview a member of the winning KT Bullets.
Indeed I am. Thank you very much, Trevor. I'm joined here by Insec, the KT Rolster Bullets. After that, I must say, very, very impressive victory versus Millenium. So first question, you guys have probably been preparing a lot for this tournament. What was kind of your impression of Millenium before coming into this game?
여기 대회 오시기 전에 준비 많이 한 것 같고, 그리고 밀레니엄 위해서 무슨 생각하시는지요? 대회 오기 전에요.
이제 밀레니엄에 대해서는 그냥 평범한 그냥 북미 팀이라고 생각하고 그에 맞춰서 준비를 했어요.
Well, they're a really good European team, and they kind of prepared some strategies for them.
And talking about those strategies into picks and bans, they had a first pick Lulu, then you guys replied with Sivir and Elise. How important were those picks for you guys?
밀레니엄 쪽에서 픽 앤 밴 하실 때 먼저 룰루 픽하고 나서 그 다음에 KT 쪽에서 엘리스랑 시비아 픽하는데 준비해놓은 거였죠.
조합은 준비했는데 딱히 준비한 건 아니고 저희 조합에 이제 앨리스가 좀 더 좋다고 생각해서 그때 빨리 가져오게 됐어요.
So they didn't prepare anything special, but they obviously knew what they want to pick, and the reason why they picked Elise first was like because it fits in their strategy, and that's why they wanted to have her first.
Okay, well, she obviously can put down a lot of pressure early. Tell me what the idea was of the team comp in general, and what the strengths were to play against of their team comp.
좋은 점이 뭐였는지 픽할 때요. 무슨 레인가 중요했는지, 그리고 어디가 what the strategy was?
Yeah, their strategy and the strengths of the other comp.
그냥 팀 콤보 왜 이렇게 픽하시는지요?
저희가 저기 룰루를 가져가는데 저희가 필요한 게 이제 11이랑 니달리가 제일 필요하거든요. 네, 그래서 그거 위주로 가져온 쪽으로 했어요.
So actually, because I picked Lulu, it's important that you get Sivir and Nidalee, and that's why they picked both of those heroes as well.
All right, so you guys did incredibly well. The game went incredibly fast, really. How has it been for you coming here on this big stage? Your transition back to jungle recently. How is that working out for you?
지금 먼저 게임이 빨리 끝나셨고요. 그리고 지금 톱에서 장으로 돌아가셨잖아요. 그래서 그거 잘 돼가고 있는지 여기요.
잘 돼가고 있는지는 저도 잘 모르겠어요.
So you can't really say if it's going really good for him going back to the jungle. So.
All right. The final question. Next game coming up for you guys, Invictus Gaming. How strong do you think they are? How do you think you're going to perform?
지금 다음 상대방이 IG 중국 팀 IG랑 하는데요. IG 팀 부에서 어떻게 생각하시는지요?
일단 저희가 한 번도 붙어본 적은 없는데 제가 W는 상대 해봤었거든요. 네, 그래서 충분히 승산이 있다고 생각해요.
So they never played against IG, but they played against World Elite, another Chinese team, and they think that it won't be easy to play against them.
Won't be easy. It's going to be a great matchup. Congratulations once again. I'm going to see you guys in just a second, but we have to go into a short break just now. But don't go anywhere because we'll be back with tons more action.